Nowadays, one of the most common tropes in animation are the small, cute side characters that steal the spotlight from the mains. They've usually got really simplistic designs and speak in gibberish, so audiences have an easier time connecting and projecting themselves onto them, and more often than not they come in droves. Because what's funnier than one character making a hilarious fart sound? 50 characters making hilarious fart sounds, of course. They're usually used in tandem with the main villain, providing a bit of comic relief to contrast against whatever evil plot the villain is hatching, while also providing characters for them to work off of or give exposition to. Despite this trope being around for years, it still manages to be successful, with probably the most recent example I could find being those tiny little robot guys in Scoob. But we also had the slug guys in Flushed Away, the aliens in Toy Story. There was this weird TV show that aired on Boomerang here called the Oddbods that really seemed to be pushing these characters. But of course, none of them even came close to the success of the Minions. I said Minions with an S. Obviously, this was all kickstarted by the French studio Illumination, with their 2010 release Despicable Me. While the movie appeared to be about an evil supervillain trying to steal the moon while slowly realizing his affection for 3 little orphan girls, in reality it was all an attempt to plant the tiny little yellow seed in your head that are the Minions. In the original Despicable Me, the Minions were used pretty sparingly. They weren't given their own side story, there wasn't any focus on them other than for a quick cheap joke. They were mostly there so Gru would have someone to work off of while doing his different heists, and for him to be able to explain his plans to the audience. It was a really quick and lazy plot device. Like, I could only imagine it went down like, oui, how do we portray this information to the audience? How about give him a literal audience to speak to? But despite this, it was kind of inevitable for the Minions to blow up in popularity. They eventually took over the entire Despicable Me franchise, and future movies would dedicate entire plotlines to random epic Minion funnies. And worse than that, they leaked into our everyday lives. For a good few years, you couldn't innocently leave the modicum of your own home without being bombarded by Minion costumes, Minion action figures, Minion Tic Tacs, Minion menstrual pads. There's even these unnecessarily high quality Minion statues you can get for the low price of $149. You know, I'm just saying, if someone wants to get me this, I'd be eternally grateful. You can even pay in installments. There was no escape. You could not avoid them, because even if you ordered a blindfold to block out all potential Minion encounters, you'd be presented with this at the door. This all culminated in them getting their own feature-length film, Minions, which is honestly one of the worst animated films in recent times I've seen. For some reason, I felt the need to see it twice, but that's besides the point. There is not a single aspect of this movie that goes above decent. It's written lazily, the characters are inconsistent. Worst of all, it's not funny. And because of Illumination's cost-effective business strategy, the film doesn't even have the plus of having great animation. Yet it still managed to rake in over $1 billion, with it at one point being the second highest grossing animated film of all time. And still to this day it's in the top 5, which is nothing to be scoffed at. But why is that? Why are these things so popular? Well, to quote I Hate Everything, who I guess is like also me as I've been told, kids and stupid people will pretty much lap up anything with bright colors and a fast pace. This isn't the first time this has happened. There have always been the popular icons who were created with the intent of being annoying. Characters like Crazy Frog, Gummy Bear, Jar Jar Binks, and Kevin Bacon. And this is why I've devised my patented Minion meter. This trademark device was created to discover the rating of how Minion-like a character is. I'm getting some readings so far. Alright, so quite low in the meter we've got the aforementioned slugs from Flushed Away and aliens from Toy Story, mostly because they weren't nearly as pushed as something like the bears from the Lorax. Seems even Illumination wanted to capitalize on their own trend. Like I said, Illumination were geniuses in the design and marketing for these things. Wait a second. I seem to be getting a reading of some characters that are even more Minion-esque than the Minions themselves. Another group of characters who also started off as wacky, gibberish-spouting, identical-looking creatures who came out a long time before the Minions and also reached similar levels of popularity to the point where they also took over the main IP in public awareness? It must be, the Rabbids. The Rabbids were the creation of Mitchell Ansel and Christophe Pic of the French game company Ubisoft. But what is with the French? They were initially introduced as characters in the Rayman series of video games, also created by Ubisoft, but quickly overthrew the limbless protagonist, and Ubisoft's focus was now aimed towards expanding the Rabbids franchise. Before this, Rayman was a fairly popular mascot, not in the levels of Sonic or Mario, but people still knew about him. His first game was pretty solid, if not an extremely challenging 2D platformer, and his next 3D outing was also met with high praise. and then there was Rayman 3. But when getting to the 4th installment, there was a lot of internal issues that slowed down and troubled its development. Initially starting as a traditional 3D platformer akin to Rayman 2, while taking heavy influence from the first game's art style. When this ambitious project fell through, mostly due to wanting to put their focus on creating a game for the Nintendo Wii, with a focus on its brand new motion control feature. What came of this was a different kind of Rayman game. This one looked to have been an open world beat 'em up that utilized the Wii's motion controls as a method for attacking enemies. Not to bring every single thing back to Sonic, but it looks like it would have played a bit like the Warhog stages in Sonic Unleashed. That's Sonic Unleashed on Wii, for those not in the know of Sonic lingo. Although there's something kind of strange about these enemies that are presented in the trailer. Can you tell what these are? Yep. It seems the Rabbids would have acted as the main antagonists for this Rayman beat 'em up. If you want to know more about the development of Rayman 4, Framerater made a pretty good documentary about it, so go check that out if you want to. But that's not what we're talking about today. We're talking about those annoying little white rabbits that stole the show. Eventually, the creator of Rayman started exploring other gameplay styles, and the game eventually adopted the style of a minigame collection. So yeah, Rayman 4 to a Rayman beat 'em up to a minigame collection. They must have known they hit gold from the start, heavily using the Rabbids in teasers and marketing. Some shorts featuring the Rabbids even went viral, since this was still the YouTube era of silly random characters doing wacky things becoming what people wanted to see. According to the plot of the GBA game, the Rabbids were once a peaceful race, but upon being abused by the people of Rayman's world, they now set out and seek revenge on those who did them wrong. Fun! It's a very dark plot for the Rabbids. Rayman Raving Rabbids was received pretty decently and sold well too, with most reviewers pointing out how much charisma the Rabbids had, with even IGN stating that the Rabbids had more personality and charisma than 10 of the most popular video game mascots combined. This is also to note that one of IGN's major complaints with the 2015 Minion movie that there were, and I quote, not enough minions.
Kids and stupid people will pretty much lap up anything.
But yeah, for a while the Rabbids were taking over the world. There's so much content Ubisoft released featuring them, it really is a...
Say the line or you're fired.
It really is a rabbit hole.
God, did you get that?
After a couple games, Ubisoft started dropping the Rayman name from the titles. You could actually see how smaller and smaller it was getting as the games went on, until eventually it just stopped appearing. Showing the series had gotten so popular, they didn't need to use the Rayman IP as a safety net anymore. And of course, this was to the utter dismay of Rayman fans all around the world. The Rabbids quickly became Ubisoft's priority, and after 2006, we didn't get another installment until Rayman Origins in 2011. While in contrast, of course in usual money-hungry Ubisoft fashion, we were getting a Rabbids game every year. Most tackling different genres like action, adventure, party, strategy, although the quality of each entry heavily fluctuated. Again, with them probably not being able to refine and stick to a certain genre, giving them no real chance to improve upon the previous entries to give us the perfect Raving Rabbids experience. For a good few years, the Rabbids were on top of the video game world, and even tried to move on to other forms of media such as television. They got their own TV series on Nick, which I refused to watch because even the mere thought of it is annoying enough for me to never want to watch it. It lasted 3 seasons with 104 episodes, so clearly there was some crazy people who wanted to see it. They're just like annoying. I get that's the whole point, but I've just never been a fan of these characters that are annoying on purpose. I don't know, maybe it's different, but I genuinely can't understand sitting through an entire game or TV episode where the gimmick is, wow, isn't that random? I don't know, maybe it's just me. If any of you actually like these kind of characters, tell me in the comments. Eventually, the Rabbids' purposefully annoying nature started bothering those who even liked them at a certain point, with the last real Rabbids game released on consoles being Rabbids Land, which came out in Wii U in 2012. Finally, the world was free of the Rabbids' reign, and peace was restored. That was until E3 2017, where it was revealed that Nintendo and Ubisoft would be collaborating on a Mario and Rabbids crossover XCOM-styled games, and it did not go over well with viewers. And I gotta say, I am a little peeved off that Miyamoto approved of this, yet has declined multiple pitches for a Mario and Sonic crossover over the years. Sonic's still popular. I swear to God, Sonic's still popular. But for real, it seems like the Rabbids are dying out, and it may be for the best. There was a planned movie by Columbia Pictures and Sony, but in 2019 the rights were sold off to Lionsgate, and is still coming out someday. Possibly? Maybe? Hopefully not? Sony really dodged that bullet. At least this isn't gonna be another Slenderman situation for them, where they release a movie based on a trend that had long lost relevancy, only for it to bomb. But that's all the Rabbids are. The trend. We had them for the mid-2000s and early 2010s. Then the Minions took over and seemed to be dying out a bit. God only knows what 2020 has in store for us, and may he have mercy on our souls. But that's not even the worst of it. The Rabbids have personally wronged me in a way I could never forgive, no matter how much time has potentially passed.
Some viewers
may find this disturbing. Viewer discretion is advised.
I went to an arcade in London last year, and they had set up a giant Rabbids virtual reality machine on display. I put on the headset, and instead of being greeted by the friendly Rabbids at my side to hold near and dear to me, I was instead greeted to static and glitches because someone broke the headset before me. The person next to me was having so much fun, so I couldn't just stop them. So I just had to sit there, my eyes hurting from the static. I guess where I'm going with this is I want my £3 back, Rabbit.